Okay, well, welcome back. We are still on the first day of production on Tremors, and this is the whole crew getting lunch on that first day. But as I said in the last video, we were already worried because the bad weather had put us behind. We were not going to get all the shots planned for our very first day. So we were having discussions about how to catch up, and we began to discuss the idea of a second unit. And that's a small film crew that goes around getting little shots that the main unit doesn't want to waste time on. It's very common on big movies, but we were a small movie. We hadn't thought we would need such a thing. But the next issue was, if you have a second unit, you need a second unit director, and we didn't really have the budget to hire one. However, Ron Underwood had noticed how hard I was working on the movie, and fairly soon he came to me and said, "Steve, why don't you direct second unit?" To which I said, "What?" And he said, "Well, in a way, isn't this what you've always done when we have worked together?" And this is what he meant. Years before, we had made short films together. I'm talking movies on 16 millimeter film. And these were sold to schools and libraries. And the teacher would get out one of these things and set it up in the classroom and show the movie on the wall. So here's a quick example. The way it worked is Ron would shoot the live action, and I would later shoot stop motion animation to match the live action. Now, this movie from 1983 was actually set in the future, and this young woman had a robot that ran her whole house. We did this about 30 years before Alexa, by the way. Anyway, I have an ulterior motive for showing this example. The movie sold very well, and the robot was very popular. And that was the reason my writing partner and I wrote a script about a robot. And it became our first big Hollywood sale. And you gotta say, the guy does look a little like Johnny Five. Okay, I'm supposed to be talking about Tremors. So I said to Ron, well, yeah, I guess I'll direct second unit. So we began to make a list of shots that we thought would be appropriate second unit shots. And fairly soon we had what we thought was about one day's work. Well, when my dad finds out that I'm going to be directing my own unit on Tremors, he's all over that with his video camera, and he was there on that day too.
This is Saturday, April 29th, about 9 o'clock in the morning, and this is Steve's first direction. The first unit is all at perfection, and I had to run over there to get some filters.
So, yes, when second unit was working, Dad was not shooting anything on main unit, sorry to say. But this is our first second unit shot, and you probably don't recognize it because it's not in the movie. In fact, the whole sequence is not in the movie. If you've watched the extras on the DVDs, you know that originally there was a scene between the two old gentlemen, Old Fred and Edgar. And in that scene, Edgar put his mule in the barn back there, and the barn began to shake, and dust came out, and the mule disappeared. Eventually, Universal said, this movie starts way too slow, and you have to cut this scene. But we didn't know that at the time, so here's main unit finishing their work on the scene, and they got everything but one shot. So second unit came back on a different day to get that shot, and here it is.
Roll camera!
You know, when you're a screenwriter, you can create a half day's work for a whole team of people by writing just one sentence. So to get this shot, all the effects that were working on main unit had to be working again. For example, we needed one of the fancy dust machines that the effects people created. We needed a fan to blow the dust up into the rafters. And we needed a big motor to shake the building. And I think my dad may have gotten one of the only shots that exists of a Tremors shaker motor. This is a freeze frame of it. So here's how the shot looked like from inside. You'll be able to hear me yelling commands from outside.
Okay, we're ready. Okay, roll camera. Dust. Shaking.
You can sort of see the shaker motor working up there.
Action!
It worked really well, by the way. It was shaking the building apart.
pigeons.
Now, the birds that were flying out with each take were not just any birds, they were Hollywood birds. And here's what my dad had to say about them.
We have some homing pigeons that are going to be released. The pigeons fly all the way back to LA, over 200 miles away.
So, with the pigeons on their way back to Los Angeles, we'd gotten our first shot, which is not in the movie, and we moved to our next shot, which is in the movie. It's the one where dirt slides down this embankment after it is shaken mysteriously by something underground. And I had an idea how to do the shot. I felt like if we put small explosive charges in the bank and shook it, the dirt would slide down. So the crew had planned for that, of course, and they went to work setting the charges. And I'm getting more and more excited because my second shot on a real movie has explosives in it, or pyrotechnics as they're called. So you can hear me talking about that here.
Okay. We are now setting up for my very first pyro shot. It's not Lisa's very first pyro shot. She's done it before.
That's Lisa Romanoff, licensed pyrotechnician and also our visual effects coordinator on the movie. Oh, and right about then the crew decided to slate the shot for Dad's camera.
That's the shot it's going to be.
So here's the first take of my idea. As you can see, not too impressive. So the crew went back to work, setting more charges. And Dad moved right in and got a close-up of Lisa working on hers.
Can you comment, Lisa, on what you're doing?
And how we're doing it is by hiding one of these little guys behind the rocks. These are electric explosives.
And here's the next take.
Now.
Well, still not great. Those little explosives, by the way, are usually used for bullet hits, and that's pretty much what they look like. There's a mystery in our lost tapes right here, too. There is no video footage at all of how we actually got the shot. And all I can think is that Dad got called away to do something else. Remember, he was working as a production assistant on the movie. But I can describe for you what we did. The crew said, "Steve, how about two of us get on either side of the camera and drag a very fine wire down the face of the slope?" And that's what they did. And that's what's in the movie. So, with our second shot done, we moved on to our last location, where our job was to get the entire scene that main unit had not gotten on that first day of production. Now, by now, Dad was back and shooting video, and he noticed this.
And someone remembered to bring Steve's chair, which he probably won't use.
Now, the scene had to do with Rhonda and her truck, and here Dad got a detail that you can't see in the movie.
I is a college student.
So it was the entire sequence of Rhonda being pursued to her truck by an unseen Graboid. Now, I have to say, it's pretty unusual for a lead actress to be out working with a little tiny second unit crew, but Finn was great about it and agreed to do it to help us make our schedule. And the upside for me, of course, was that I get to say that I directed a whole scene in Tremors.
Okay. Rolling.
And action.
Boy, and what an exciting scene it is. It was kind of a long afternoon for Finn. Here she is touching up her own makeup between takes. It was just a very technical scene. There was no dialogue or anything. So she had to keep just doing things over and over and listening to the director of photography complain about how she was walking.
A lot on your 250mm lens, and it's a lot of.
By the way, that director of photography is Virgil Harper, who also shot that little robot movie and would later go on to shoot Tremors 2 and 3 and 4. Anyway, next up is something I hope you find interesting. We had always known that we would want to get the cameras close to the ground in order to simulate Graboid movement. And this is one of the rigs we used to do that. We called it the Pogo Cam because it kind of looked like a pogo stick. That's a very old silent IMO movie camera on the bottom there. But it did have some high-tech touches. That's a video monitor they're adjusting on top so Virgil could kind of see what he was doing. And that thing I'm holding with the antenna is a video monitor that I could kind of see what Virgil was doing. So we're setting up to do our very first Graboid POV. So here's a take, and it could be the one in the movie. It looks about right. Now watch as Virgil tilts the camera up. Our idea was that tells you that the Graboid has heard the noise Rhonda is making, and it's going to follow her to her truck. Now there was something else we wanted to get in this shot, and that was we wanted a frightened rabbit to run right in front of the camera. I don't know what it was with me and my partner, always writing animals into the script. Anyway, here's the rabbit, looking very frightened. And here he is getting put in position for his big close-up. By the way, it was getting very cold again, and Finn was freezing between takes. But with everything in place, we tried to get the shot. And the rabbit didn't move at all. And the rabbit did not get into our movie. So that finished our shots of Rhonda, and Finn was able to go back to the motel, and we moved on to our last shot of the day, the very first time we shot a Graboid dirt hump. Now, the hump worked like this. The effects people had chosen a buoy to be the hump, a buoy like you would tie a boat up to, because it was roughly Graboid shaped. And they dug a long trench, and the trench sides were lined with plywood, and the top was covered with latex rubber that could flex up and down when the buoy was pulled back and forth underneath. The buoy had cables on it, and a vehicle could pull it in either direction. Now, the funny thing about it was once it was all dressed in and covered with brush and dirt, we would forget where it was, and we spent a lot of time on the movie having discussions with each other. Where exactly is the hump going to be? In fact, here comes the script supervisor. She wants to know, where's the hump? Yeah, that's me and Virgil. Okay, that's somewhere right in there, right in there. So this is the very first time we shot a Graboid hump on Tremors. You see the Jeep back there pulling its very long cable.
Okay. That was pretty slick.
That was great.
I love that hump.
We did love that hump. It was one of the best and most reliable effects on Tremors, so we just kept shooting it. We got our Aeroflex down there and shot it with that. And we put the camera right on the ground and shot it that way.
It looks freaking great.
We would shoot until we ran out of film. You know, with these old film cameras, you don't know exactly when they're going to run out, but Virgil can hear it.
Gonna start?
Not yet. Roll camera.
Roll out right there. It would have been great, but it was.
And finally, Virgil said, you know, Steve, you got to get down and look through the viewfinder and see what this looks like through the camera. So that's what I did.
Stay clear! Yo!
And I got to see what Virgil had been seeing on these various different takes. You can hear the Jeep pulling the cable in the background there.
Whoa!
So good.
So that was our very last shot on that day.
He's going whoa!
And at that point, I got to say to the crew, it's a wrap. And that's an old Hollywood tradition. When you say it's a wrap, it tells the crew you can pack up your gear, we're going home for the day. Now remember, my dad is shooting video, and he didn't get me saying it. So this is what happened.
My question is on
If you get Steve to say it's a wrap again.
Get the pogo cam another app.
For the camera, say-
What am I supposed to say?
The magic word.
It's a wrap. I'm sorry, what now, Virgil?